My first step to writing a story, usually the story has to come to me. I can't go to it. I can't force it. But once it does come, then I have to hang on and be tenacious and follow through to the end. And inevitably, that does involve lots of revision.
Copy over the premise of the story from my notes app. The premise is usually a combination of 2 or 3 different premises that I had thrown together because I just had found some connection, and that connection is usually the beginning of the story.
Often I'll have sort of a phrase that seems a little bit provocative. It might be kind of a fun one with either internal rhyme or, I don't know, just wordplay or something, usually with the content that makes it intriguing to me. And that will usually spark a new piece, especially when it comes along with a character that seems like they belong in a story with that piece of text. Maybe it's dialogue, maybe it's description.
My writing fashion style?
My writing fashion style.
Like what I wear?
The classic, guy went to MFA, Gap chic. Clothes I wear during the day, normally. I just continue wearing them when I sit down to write. It's
all about comfort. And I have on jeans, and that's what I wear when I write most of the time. What you see is what you get. I do own a tiara for very, very special writing events.
The honest answer is, I don't know.
My favorite character archetype is what I call the mystical villain. That's a villain like the judge in Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, or Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Just the kind of character that's so uniquely evil that it seems to have an effect on you, the reader. You're uncomfortable afterward. I think I like that because it makes the reader feel things that are otherwise difficult to feel in a much more controlled sense when you're reading a book. But then also you get to confront some of the darknesses within an individual's human condition against the absolute evil you're reading. And I find that to just be a really interesting challenge as a reader.
A character who is keeping secrets from others is always interesting, but what's really interesting is a character that doesn't fully know the secrets in their own heart, doesn't fully know their own mind. There's a fantastic line, the last 2 lines of a great Bruce Springsteen song, Brilliant Disguise, and he says, "God have mercy on the man who doubts what he's sure of." I think that's a pretty compelling character to write about, and certainly to read about too.
My favorite character archetype? I don't know about that. The word archetype, I think we need to be careful because sometimes archetype can slide into stereotype or, it's flirting with cliche. I think generally we are not as smart as we think we are or as good as we hope we are. And so I guess I like a character who is in the process of discovering that.
Name a book that has influenced you. Okay, so many books could answer this question, but I'm going to name my favorite book of all time, Alice in Wonderland. And the reason is it does nearly everything that I love in fiction. It covers politics, it covers relationship, it's got a little bit of the outdoors, it's got plenty of mystery and the absurd. It's got funky publishing stuff with layout of text on the page that had to have been viewed as pretty wacky then. It's still wacky now. There's a mouse's tail that's, the text is drawn into a tail. It's just a gorgeous book. And that's even not including the illustrations, but the original was illustrated. And most copies that you get today have all kinds of fantastic illustrations. So I love that book. For the content and the fact that it was written by a very sophisticated mathematician, adult man, who wrote it for a little girl that he felt he had a meeting of the minds with, and it features Alice, the little girl, who in her role in the narrative is actually the most adult person in the scene most of the time, which I love.
Nathaniel West, Miss Lonely Hearts.
Where to begin? But I'll say Nabokov's Penin or Orwell's Inside the Whale. What makes me curious? Well, there is this sense of being on a journey of discovering something. I'm not a writer who outlines everything in a very detailed way. I have to write in order to find out where I am going, and that's most of the fun right there. It's as simple as that.
Human relationships, and human relationships is a catalyst for change, whereas just something that exists within structures and, often personifies those structures and, represents so much about the things that happen to us as individuals and just how relationships just really are the meeting of entire worlds within people, especially as alienation has become, much the norm in late capitalism and the post-pandemic era. Folks are literally scared of their neighbors in ways that I don't think they've been before. All that's to say is I'm really interested in whenever we overcome that alienation and interact and what happens there.
I love when something just kind of lands in my path. So this book is what I started just reading today because I just got it in the mail. Your Hearts, Your Scars by Adina Talv Goodman. I think it came across my Twitter feed because I have come to know a woman who edited this. Adina Talv Goodman had a heart transplant when she was 19 and passed away because of a problem that came from that. It's just an outstanding book of essays that she's written. But the odd thing is, the other book on my desk is this book, Vital Remains, by Winston Wickham, who is an early pioneer of the heart transplant. He's a South African doctor that moved to the US and where he lives today. I live in Switzerland and heard people speaking English in a restaurant locally. And it turns out I met the daughter of this man who also lives in Switzerland now. And she told me about her father and about his book and his life. And I was intrigued and ended up buying it. It just struck me as very interesting that I'm writing now about chronic illness. And then just right now, here are these two books that have to do with heart failure and heart transplant. And I'm very intrigued by that phenomenon of those things sort of landing on my desk. To me, that's the line from Alice in Wonderland that makes a lot of sense, and it lands nearly every day, is curiouser and curiouser. And that's what literature is all about.